Hello friends, welcome back to Program with Akshay, and this is the final part of AWS CDK Masterclass. We will see a project number 3. Previously we have seen the project number 1 where we have created AWS Infra. In project number 2 we have set up auto scaling group, and this is the final part of our AWS CDK Masterclass where we are going to see how to set up an SQS queue, how to set up an SES. Okay, so let's start. So this is what we are trying to achieve in project number 3, and we are going to set up like API gateway, Lambda, SQS, and SES. Okay. So as a user will post a request to an API gateway, and API gateway will invoke the Lambda, and this Lambda will be responsible for saving all the operations into DynamoDB. Okay. And after the saving the operation, this will push a message that the customer has been inserted to an SQS queue. Okay, and this queue will be responsible to invoke another Lambda, and this Lambda, the responsibility of this Lambda to generate an email or to send an email through a user. Okay, so this is how we have created an architecture for this project. Okay, now the thing might be coming in your mind that this invoke SES function can be dealt with or can be written into this Lambda also, which can save the data into DynamoDB and which can invoke the SES also. But as per AWS best practices and as per AWS best architected framework, this is how you create a segregations of each and every resources. Basically, you're drilling down or breaking into piece by piece, and you are writing those operations into various Lambdas or various resources. Okay, so that is why this Lambda is responsible only for saving data. This Lambda is responsible for invoking the SES email, and this is how this invoking of this Lambda is happening. This Lambda invoking happen with the help of an SQS queue. Okay, so this is an event driven architecture where user is trying to post a message to an API gateway. This API gateway is responsible to invoke a Lambda which will save the customer database into a DynamoDB. Then this Lambda will push a message, or you can say a push notification message to an SQS queue. This SQS queue is responsible to trigger a Lambda with invoking a Lambda, and this Lambda's operation or this Lambda task is to invoke an SES email and to generate an email that saying that the customer has been successfully inserted. Please take the further action. So without further ado, we will start with our project. Okay, so to start our project, I have already created a blank project. Let's say naming as project 3 SES example. Okay, so we will fire up the terminal, and the first thing first, we will try to initiate our app. So this will create our CDK application, and this will install all the node packages and all the node dependencies inside our project. So I will pause this video. It will take 5 minutes to install all the node packages here. Once the installation done, we will try to create an SQS queue. We will try to create an SQS event source to the Lambda event source, and we will try to create two Lambdas. As per architecture, we need to create two Lambdas and an SQS queue. Okay, so let's create the stacks once my installation is done. So our installation is done. That means our initialization of application of CDK application is done. Now let's try to create a new folder first. Name it as Lambdas. Okay, so here we are going to create our two Lambdas. Okay, now inside the lib folder, we will go inside the lib folder. Let me clear the commented code, and we are trying to import an SQS, correct? Okay, that is the first. Now we will try to import the Lambda. Okay, so we will try to import Lambda, import star as Lambda from AWS CDK lib. Yeah, AWS CDK lib slash AWS hyphen Lambda. Okay, so this is the first thing. Second thing, we are going to import an event source. Okay, a Lambda event source, because SQS event will be responsible for invoking the Lambda event source. Okay, so we will try to import the event source. Similarly, import star as Lambda event source from AWS CDK lib slash AWS Lambda event sources. Now we will try to import and path, or we will try to import API gateway. Then we need to import path, because we will try to provide the directory name of those lambdas. Okay, so import path, or you can say import join from path. Okay, so this is done. Now we need to import IAM policy, we need to import API gateway, and we need to import DynamoDB. Okay, so import star as API gateway from AWS CDK lib / AWS hyphen API gateway. Now we need to import DynamoDB, import star as Dynamo from AWS CDK lib / AWS hyphen Dynamo. Now we need to import IAM policy. Why we require IAM policy? The permissions to require to execute the lambdas. Okay, so import star as IAM from AWS CDK lib / AWS hyphen IAM. Yeah, so we have imported almost all the packages. Now let's try to create the stacks. Okay, so first we will try to create an SQS. Now we will create a variable const create customer, or create customer queue new SQS. Let's try to invoke the construct queue, give a name, and the scope will be this. We will say create customer queue, which will have the properties as visibility timeout and a queue name. Okay, so we will give a queue name first. Queue name, give any queue name, create customer queue, and visibility timeout dot seconds. So this message will be available only for 45 seconds. Okay, so this is why we have created visibility timeout. Now next thing, we are going to create an event source for the lambdas. Okay, so create an SQS event source, declaring a variable const lambda SQS event source is equal to new lambda event source dot SQS. We have something called as SQS event source. Okay, and pass the variable name which you have already created. Okay, pass it here, and which will have properties like batch size and enable as true. Batch size you can specify 20 and enabled as true. Okay, so we have created queues, we have created an event source. Okay, now what we are going to do, we are going to create the first lambda. Okay, and after creating the first lambda, we will try to attach that lambda to the lambda event source. Okay, now let's try to create the lambda. Create lambda for processing. Okay, so const process customers new lambda dot function, scope will be this, process customers. Now here we are going to pass handler name, we are going to pass runtime, and we are going to pass code. Okay, handler name you can specify right now, and then you can later on create the handler. So first we will specify code. Okay, lambda dot code dot from asset, where we are going to join now the directory name and the actual path, underscore dir name, comma dot slash lambdas. Okay, now this is done. Now what we are going to specify? We are going to specify the handler name. So handler dot create or process customer. Now runtime, which will be our Node.js, lambda dot runtime dot Node.js latest. Okay, so we are done. Now let's try to attach the event source to this processing, okay, processing lambda, so that lambda can poll the queues and invoke this process customer lambda. Okay, so we will try to process customer dot add event source to whom, to this. Okay, so we are creating an event source, creating an event source to the insert, or you can say save customer lambda. Okay, save customer lambda, so that lambda can poll to the process customer. Okay, so this lambda this lambda can poll to an SQS queue, and this SQS queue will be responsible for processing the customers and invoking the SES email, and this lambda will be only responsible for saving the data into DynamoDB. Okay, so this is done. Now let's try to add the permissions to invoke the SES. Okay, so to invoke the SES, you can say we have something called as process customers dot add to role policy, and inside this we are going to add new IAM permission, new IAM dot policy statement. We are going to write an policy statement here. Okay, so the policy statement will be where we are going to write effect action is nothing but SES, and we are going to specify SID. Okay, now okay, let me, yeah, now first we will try to add effect will be IAM dot effect dot allow. Okay, then actions on which resource, so resource is in double quotes, you have to specify SES star. Okay, and we have closed, yes. Now we are going to specify resources. Okay, resources will be star, that means all the resources, and we are going to specify SID, that is sent email policy SIT, and we are done with our adding the policy statement. That means in the like granting the inquiry of the customers of the to permission to invoke the SES. Okay, and we should end this with semicolon. That is correct. Now we will try to create DynamoDB, and then we will try to create the customer. Okay, so first we will try to create the customer. Okay, that means create customer lambda. Okay, so first we will try to create the customer lambda. Save customer lambda is equal to new lambda dot function. Scope will be this, give a name, save customer lambda. Inside this we are going to pass again code, so I will copy paste it to speed up things. We will paste it here, and we will try to give a name called something called as save customer. Okay, now we are going to specify memory size. This is completely optional, and timeout duration. Okay, because we haven't specified that. Okay, so let me provide memory size 256 MB, and timeout, visibility timeout, that is in duration dot timeout duration dot seconds. Yes, where we are specifying 10 seconds. Let me try to import duration. Quick fix, add import. Now we are going to specify the environment name. Okay, so environment name is nothing but an object. So specify environment name, environment. Okay, and this is an object, and inside this we are going to specify the table name, the queue URL, and the email ID. Okay, so customer underscore table underscore name, where you specify your table name. Okay, table name is nothing but you can say customer table dot table name. Now you specify your queue. Okay, so your queue will be customer underscore processing underscore queue underscore URL. In this case, you provide the URL. Okay, so in this case, our URL is this one: create customer queue dot queue URL. Now we are going to specify an email. Okay, so specify an admin underscore email, and I will specify my email ID, and that's about it. Now we will try to create an DynamoDB table. Okay, now to create an DynamoDB table, we need to add const customer. I will try give this name, so this error will be gone. Correct. Customer table is equal to new Lambda function. Oh, sorry, new DynamoDB table. DynamoDB dot table scope will be this, and we will say as customer and query table. That's great. Now we will try to add partition key, billing mode, and point in time recovery. Okay, so partition key will be, you can say ID, name, specify ID. Okay, and here the type will be string. DynamoDB dot, we have something called as attribute type dot string. Yeah, now we are going to specify billing mode. Okay, billing mode. So DynamoDB dot billing mode dot paper request. Okay, now encryption, default encryption we are going to use, which is being provided by AWS table encryption dot AWS manage or default. Yes, we can use default. And point in time recovery, we have something called as point in time recovery as false. Okay, so this is how we have created. I think so this should be up so that it can take this. Yeah, so this is how we have created stack. Okay, so let me close this and let me new terminal. Yeah, so we have created an SQS queue. Okay, first we have created an SQS queue, we have created an event source. Okay, and we had created the processing lambda. Okay, so this is the processing lambda, you can say, for the customer, and then we are tying this processing lambda to an event source. Okay, now we are adding a policy. Okay, we need to add the policy to invoke an SES. Okay, so we had created a policy statement. Okay, then we have created DynamoDB table to save all the details into DynamoDB. Okay, and last but the not least, the save customer lambda, which will try to save the details into the table. Okay, so we are almost done. Okay, now we will try to create the lambdas. Now let's try to create lambdas. So I will try to create a new file called as handler.js. Now inside this lambda, we will try to create both the lambdas, the saving and the processing of the customer. Before going that, we will try to we wanted to import the document DB client, where we should where the exactly the lambda will save the request into document DB or into the DynamoDB document DB client, you mean. And we will try to import an SDK. Okay, so first we will try to import SDK require AWS SDK. It's not CDK, it's SDK. Okay. So yes, next we are going to import UID, const UID from, not from here, it is require UUID. Okay. Now we will try to import SES because this is the Lambda which is trying to send the email. Okay, so like invoking the SES. So this Lambda needs that import packages. Okay, so const SES is equal to new AWS dot SES, where we are going to specify the region now. Okay, so the region will be my region will be AP hyphen south 1. You can specify your region and the document client, that is the DynamoDB, const document client here, new AWS DynamoDB dot, we have something called as document client, D capital document client. Also, we are going to specify the region here. Okay, so region in double quotes AP hyphen south 1. Now we are going to specify SQS. Okay, for SQS, we will copy this and to speed up thing and change the variable SQS, and we are going to specify SQS, correct? And we are going to specify, I guess this is capital if I'm not wrong, SCS, and this is SQS, yes, and AP South 1. Okay, now we are going to specify an email ID which will try to take it from the environment variable. Okay, so const admin underscore email underscore add, where we are going to specify the environment variable env dot admin email dot add. Okay, now we are going to create a lambda now. Okay, so exports dot save, what name I have given for lambda, save, yes, save customer. So save customer goes here, then which is having an async function. Okay, and which is having an event. Okay, and this will inside this we are going to specify the table name, we are also going to specify the queue, we are going to specify the body. Okay, and then we are going to specify the params, what params we are going to pass. Okay, so const, we can say the table name, the customer table name in this my case. Okay, and const customer table name is equal to process environment dot customer table name. Yeah, and it should end with semicolon. Now similarly for queue, const customer processing queue is equal to process.env dot for the queue. Okay, so we have set up the environment variables for the table name and for the queue name. Okay, now for body, const, we are going to specify body as event. Okay, and now we are going to specify the actual inquiries, okay, or actual inserting. Okay, so we are going to specify the type and the actual inquiries. Okay, here in this case. Okay, so we are going to say save like the customer had done for which inquiry, and the items or which he has purchased. Okay, so we are going to specify that. So we will specify first customer type, that is, it is a gold customer, silver customer, or a bronze customer, and what inquiries, that is what inquiries he has done, whether he has inquired for the grocery products. Okay, and the exact customers. Okay, and we are going to pass this inside the json dot parse the body. Okay, now for id, we are going to specify IOU ID here, new date dot get time dot toString. Okay, now we are going to pass the whole object. Okay, so const cast is equal to the whole object which we have specified here. First will be id, okay, which we have specified here. Next will be our type, customer type. Let me correct the spelling, customer type here. So this will be the customer type, and next will be the customer. Okay, so this is the object we are trying to post. Okay, now we will try to log this. Okay, so console dot log params and the whole cust object. Okay, and we are done. Okay, and yes, console.log. Yes, now we will try to put, okay, like update and so on and so forth. Okay, so const, just a minute, const put params is equal to, now again the whole object where we are going to specify the table name is equal to the double colon, my bad, the exact table name, and item we are going to specify this object, cust object. Okay, so this is how we are going to specify the put object. Okay, why it is giving me an error? It should end console.log params. That is correct, and I am not sure why it is giving me expected. Somewhere it is expected. Okay, okay. So this should be yeah. So this should be the customer items, and inside the customer items we have something called as customer type. Correct, customer type, and yeah, still it is expecting something. Yeah, so the error says that it is missing a comma here, and this should be the customer. Yeah, and yes, so our most of the part is done. Okay, so we have put items. Now we will try to save this data into DynamoDB. Okay, actual saving of the data into DynamoDB. Okay, so save DDB. Okay, now we will try to set up the document client first. So await document client dot put, where we have something called as put params, and it has a promise. It has a promise. Yes, now after this we are trying to log. Okay, we will try to log this console.log. Okay, we will try to log this customer. Okay, where interpolation, string interpolation, dollar id is being created. Okay, so this is the log. Now we will try to add the customer into a queue that will notify the administrator. Okay, now let's add in the queue which will send an email. Okay, now first we will try which will have a queue URL and a message body. Okay, so const, we have something called as message ID, which has an await SQS. Okay, dot send message, and inside this we are going to specify queue URL, q q u e u e q URL. Okay, specify your URL name. This is my URL name, and we are going to specify the message body here. message body. Inside this, we are going to stringify JSON dot stringify, and we are going to specify this object, the cust object. Okay, so that is the cust object, and now we are going to specify where I have written cust y cust array cust. I will type it better. Then specify admin, and we are going to specify admin email environment variable name. Okay, so we are done. Most of the things have been set up. Okay, now we are okay. Message.body. This should be inside this. This should be. This is an object. Yeah. So we are done most of the part. Okay, then it will have a promise. Yes. Dot promise. Yes. And it will have a promise. Yeah, so we have done with the most of the part. Now let's try to log this message ID. Okay, so I will copy this again, console.log. Then we can watch this logs into the CloudWatch. We will say that message ID and our email. This is our email is been sent. Okay, or you can say is in queue. That is the better thing. UQUE. Okay, so we are done over most of the part. Now we will try to return this. Okay, and then we will try to set up for the processing customer Lambda. Okay, so for this we will try to first we will try to return. Okay, and inside the return we will try to return the status code, because it is hitting the API gateway first. Okay, status code, then body. These things are already explained in my previous part, where we have already set up the API gateway. Okay, json.stringify. Inside this we are going to specify the object name and the message ID. Correct? Message ID. I have created a variable, if I'm not wrong. No. Okay, no, not an issue. Let's see. Message ID is equal to message ID. Yeah. So we are done with this. Yeah. It will have, and yeah, and this is the closing. Okay, and this should be the closing. Now we are going to specify the process enquiry. Okay, so the process enquiry for the process enquiry of the customers. Okay, so I will copy paste the code. Okay, and I will explain you to speed up the things. So for process customer, this is our process customer Lambda. Okay, which is having an async event. We have configured the source email. Okay, like whatever the email we are going to configure that, and we are going to log the console logs. Okay, and if I'm not wrong, this should be the email. Okay, yeah, source email, and this is the promise. Okay, that means the records which we are going to try to read those, and this is the body. Okay, SES params, which has the text. Okay, the subject. Okay, and the source email which we have configured to the address, that is the admin part. Okay, where we have configured the admin part. Yes, in the previous stack where we have configured the admin email. Yeah, this is the admin email, and let me specify the source as a different email. Okay, I have an alternate email ID, and let me specify that source. And this is all about the processing the customer, and this is going to send an email with the SES, and this will try to read the record. Okay, all the promise objects. Okay, this is all the records where it is having a customer and the customer items. Okay, so this is about the second Lambda. Okay, and we are done with the all the implementation. Let's try to deploy it, and let's try to test it. So our main important stack is pending, where we have to create an API gateway. So I've already created an API gateway. Okay, in the previous section of this masterclass, we have seen how to create an API gateway. Similarly, I have created an API gateway. Like I have declared a variable, I have assigned I invoking the construct of REST API, giving a name to the API, REST API name as email service, and then adding the root path, that is /cust/new, and this is a post implementation. Okay, and I have passed the save customer lambda inside that API gateway. Okay, and one more thing in the line number 74 and 75, where we are giving the customer table, we have a customer table DynamoDB, and we are allowing that is the grant read write to our save customer lambda to save the data into the DynamoDB table. Okay, similarly for create customer queue, we are allowing the grant send messages to the save customer lambda. Okay, that means the save customer lambda will send an SMS or also send a message to an SQS queue. That means it should have a permission that grant send messages. So these are the permission settings which I have done, and these are the stack inside the stack we have created an API gateway. Okay, so we are done with this right now. Okay, now inside this we will go to the lambdas folder. Okay, and we will do npm init first. After npm init, we will try to will press enter. Okay, so this is done. Okay, so after npm init, we will try to install the UUID. Okay, npm-i UUID. Why we are doing this? Because we have imported UUID, and we are using this import packages like UUID, AWS SDK inside the lambdas folder. Okay, so this is done now. Okay, and everything is correct. Now let's try to deploy this project. Okay, so first we will try to bootstrap the project. So CDK bootstrap, so this will bootstrap the project. After this is done, we will synthesize the project and we will deploy our project. So this will create a stack in our AWS account, and after creating the stack, okay, we will try to post a call. Okay, the post a request from the postman or through any other software which you are using. Okay, so let's do CDK synth. Okay, and after doing the CDK synth, we will do the CDK deploy. Okay, so before doing the deployment, let me go to the console first. Okay, let me go to the console, and inside the console we have something called as in SES we need to create identities. Okay, if you go to SES, okay, and inside the SES, let's get started here. And inside the SES, we need to create an identity. Okay, so you need to create an identity. You need to set up your email which you have configured in your application. Okay, I will do it once I will pause the video. So you need to provide those two identities, the sender receiver and the recipients. Okay, so without this status as verified, the email won't get sent. So I will pause the video and I will set up my identities. So we have created the identities. Okay, so once you go to Amazon SES, and inside SES you need to click on verified identities, and inside the verified identities you need to create an identity. You need to provide your email address, the both email address which you are specifying in your code, and you need to create an identity. So a mail will be get triggered. You need to follow the procedure, and you need to click on the confirmation link which has been sent on your email, and your identity will be verified. Okay, so make sure your both the identities are verified. Here in my case, I have this both email IDs are being verified. Okay, so once the email IDs are verified, we will try to deploy the project. So my CDK synth is done. So let me try to deploy. So the command is CDK deploy. So this will deploy our application in the region AP South 1. So let's wait for a minute. Once the application will deploy, we will try to post the API through my Thunder client. Okay, so I'm using Thunder client here. You can use Postman also. So press yes. So this will take time to create the CloudFormation chain set, and this will take at least a minute to deploy those resources in the account. So our application is deployed. Okay, now let's try to copy this endpoint, API endpoint, and let's try to post it in the Thunder client. Let's say it a new request, and let's paste it. And this is a post call. Okay, and we will have something a body, and inside body here we will pass new. Okay, and inside body we have something called as customer. We have customer, and we will say it as Akshay, and we have customer type, and this is an array, say it as customer type, and as this is an array, and inside that we will try to post as gold and silver customer. Okay, so let's try to post it, or let's try to send it. Okay, missing authentication. Why? We have specified the headers, response. So the issue was the URL is slash broadcast slash new. Okay, this was the issue. Okay, and let's try to post this. Okay, and let's see whether do we get a 200 status or not. Okay, and let me send it, and yeah, we are able to send it. So this is the ID. Okay, this is the customer name, and these are the customer items. It is a gold or silver customer, and this is the message ID. Okay, now let's try to navigate to the console, and inside the console let's see whether we are the stack has been created or not. So we have something called as Lambda, and inside the Lambda you can see we have something called as process customer and save customer, and inside the process customer we have something called as API gateway. So we are doing a post call, and this post call API gateway is triggering an Lambda which is saving the details inside the customer. Okay, now let's try to duplicate this, and we have another function called as process customer. So this process customer, that means the SQS message is been invoked by this has been triggered, and the process customer is invoked, and this will send an SES email. Okay, so let's try to check whether our SES email is been created or not. Let's try to check queue, that is the queue. This is the queue has been created. Yes. Okay, and you can see the message in flight is 3 right now. Okay, that means 3 messages are in pending state. So a queue has been created. Okay, and the main part we should see inside the DynamoDB our record is being inserted. Go to tables, and inside the tables we should see one item. Yes, so we can see our one item. Okay, now our stack has been created, and we should see an email. Okay, and the email should be like this in format. Okay, so this is the format. Okay, that is this is the subject, and this is the sender. Okay, and this is the body. Okay, this is the new inquiry received for Akshay. Items are gold and silver. Okay, so we have created stack. Okay, and we have created the project. Okay, where we have seen how to invoke an API gateway, and that API gateway will invoke the Lambda. Okay, let me fire up the project. Yes, so this is the architecture of the project, where the user is doing the post call through to an API gateway, and the API gateway is invoking the Lambda. Now we have seen the Lambda has pushed an email notification, pushed an a message ID or a message to an SQS queue. That SQS queue is passed on to an Lambda function. Okay, that is in our case is process customer Lambda, and that Lambda is responsible for invoking an SMS, or you can say SES email, and I have received an email. Okay, and also the save customer Lambda, this part is responsible for saving all the details inside the DynamoDB, and our items are getting saved inside the DynamoDB. Okay, so this is how you can do those details. Okay, details as in all the stacks is being created through our Node.js or TypeScript. Okay, so we have seen 3 projects in this AWS CDK masterclass. Okay, so project number one is creating about infrastructure, AWS infrastructure. Project number two, where we have created auto application load balancer. And this is the project number three, where we have seen a complete architecture. You can say a project where details are getting saved into DynamoDB with the help of a Lambda. And that Lambda is responsible for triggering an SQS message. And that SQS message is another Lambda is triggered, and SQS message is passed to another Lambda, and Lambda is triggered. And that Lambda is responsible for sending an email. Okay, and how to set up and SES, how to set up an identities, how to get verified those identities. So this is how the complete architecture, this is how the complete project for all of us AWS CDK masterclass. So with that all said, our AWS CDK masterclass is over, and it has been completed with over 12 videos. I hope it is beneficial for each and every student who is watching this video. Let me know in the comment section if you are facing any issues. Also, I will post all the code into the GitHub repository so you can download all the code and you can practice at your home. Do let me know if you feel that do you want a specific video on any topic on AWS, or any topic of for any masterclass. Okay, like maybe AWS step functions, serverless architectures, and so on. Okay, so do like the video, do subscribe the channel if you found the content very useful. Happy learning, guys, and happy, be happy, and all the best. Thank you.